Welcome back to Beauty Marks Podcast, a space where we embrace our marks that go through our journey. We talk about all things healing, mental health, community, and how to embrace your story. My name is Elizabeth Savillon, and I am so glad that you're here. We had just launched our relationship podcast series where we're going to be talking about self-love. We're going to be talking about friendship, relationships, which we all go through. And so if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and leave a review and let us know what you're loving, what you would love to hear more about. And I'm very excited to be here at Hi Hello Labs in downtown Orlando in this beautiful studio space. And I feel like I'm getting cozy and comfy. And I was just talking to Chris before we started about that. I feel like this is my feel. You know, we finally found my feel for Beauty Marks Podcast. So if you have any needs for video production, for event space, or if you want to create a podcast, make sure to check them out, Hi Hello Labs, and they are an amazing team as well. Also, if you are in Orlando, make sure to check out our She Cultivates ORL community, where we are doing a Galentine's event for this month. And so in this month that we're talking about friendship, relationships, if you want to make friends and make connected relationships and actually have meet people in real life and get to know other people and have deeper conversations, make sure to check out our She Cultivates event on February 24th. We really want to be the place where it's like you can meet people in real life and you have a place to go to do things that maybe you've been wanting to do, but you don't have someone to do them with. And I love seeing the women that come to our events like actually end up collaborating and doing things together and meeting up after the event. So make sure to check out all the information at shecultivatesorl.com. On this week's episode, I wanted to do a solo episode to talk about because it is Valentine's week. And so y'all know everybody's posting about love. And believe it or not, I love Valentine's Day. And it might not be for the reason that you guys think, because it's not relational for me. Because honestly, I have been single the past few years for Valentine's Day. And I feel like people that are in relationships for a long time, they actually don't even celebrate it like that. So I feel like for me, I love this time of the year because I get to do Galentine's. And so I usually host, every year I do something with my core friends of something of either a brunch or just some kind of party at the house, or we go out to dinner, and it's just a time to celebrate friendship. I feel like in the past few years, I have found that my friends have been such a pivotal part of like my healing, but also of like feeling in community. And I know as someone that has struggled with maybe finding my people, you know, once you do, it's like I want to make sure that I tell them how much I appreciate them and that we can do things together, and it makes me feel better because we're together, you know? And so I know that around this time, I get a lot of questions about like how to navigate loneliness, how to, you know, feel good about yourself during this time. And I know maybe for someone that has gone through a breakup or is struggling right now with your mental health, or maybe you just feel alone, this time is hard because you see that stuff, you're online, and just like the end of the year recap, like when you see things online that are sometimes hard to navigate, then you're like, how do I manage this myself? You know, how do I like make sure that I'm not going down a spiral, you know? And so I wanted to share today about things that might help you if you are feeling lonely, if you are single during the season, and things that have helped me. I feel like these past few years, the first few years, I was really struggling, and it would be like this time of the year, I would have to take a break, usually on Valentine's Day. So when Valentine's Day would come, I would be like, all right, I need to do something for myself. I need to plan an event. I need to have plans because I was just gonna like spiral, you know? And so I feel like now I have figured out the things that have worked for me. And again, this is just my opinion and my advice, but you definitely can, if you need something more or deeper advice, I definitely recommend going to see a therapist or going to see a life coach or someone to walk you through if this is something that is more than just like a temporary feeling, you know, that you have. So I first want to say that loneliness is universal. We all experience it, and you can be in a room full of people and still feel alone. You can sometimes feel like you just don't feel connected to someone, you know, you feel like it's very superficial. And I know that for me, when I have felt that way, it's because I'm desiring to connect with people at a different way. I'm desiring intimacy that sometimes we always assume that comes from a relationship status. And believe it or not, you can be lonely even in a relationship. And so for me, what has helped me is number one, over the past year or two, like a year and a half or two, I have found a hobby that I have enjoyed. I remember when I first became single, I felt very, very hopeless because a lot of my friends were kind of going through some hardships in their life. They were either going through breakups, or the people that I had around me were just struggling in their relationships. So when I would hear that, it was very discouraging to me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to find someone. This is hopeless. But having people that are in healthy relationships, or having people that have healthy connections, continues to give me hope. And so if you are single and you're in that place of like, I feel lonely, but like, I don't know what to do, the first thing that helped me is to make friends that are single, because when you're around people that are in connection, in partnerships, it's like then you end up seeing yourself as like, I'm missing something. When you can have literally everything, like all your ducks in a row per se, and you might just think about that one thing. So I feel like once I started meeting people that were also in my same season, I would be like, oh, like, yeah, like, we would like to be in a relationship, but like, we're also living our life. Like, we're not waiting till or waiting for something to happen. Like, we're living continuously, like we're not going to be putting our life on hold until that happens. And so I feel like that has helped me a lot, having healthy people when they are in a relationship, having healthy examples, but also having people in your same season that makes you feel like you're not missing out on anything. Another thing is finding hobbies, which that ties into my single friends. A lot of them I met through salsa. So salsa is a hobby that I picked up almost 2 years ago, and it's something I enjoy because it's just for fun. It's not something, sometimes like as someone that it's like entrepreneur focused, or like you're always trying to do something, sometimes we try to make a business out of everything, or we're like, we want to be the best at everything that we do. But some things are just good when they're just for fun, like where you just do it on your free time, that you go to work or you do something else, and that's just something that you can like disconnect, and you have like no expectations of like being the best. It's like, I just go here and I have fun. And so that has been amazing for me to just enjoy, and literally when I go there, I'm just there, present. It's great exercise. It's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of people. And so finding a hobby that you enjoy, whatever that is, if that is something creative, or that is actually like a class or something like that, I recommend you doing it, and doing it that's not paid. That's literally you just go. Because I feel like when you have something all the time that it's like, I get paid for this and I do a gig and all of that, like that's work. That's just work. And I remember even with my salsa, the first year I was actually on a team, and it was fun, right? And I did it, and I am like so glad that I did it. There was tryouts, and we went to practice weekly, and it was intense, but I learned so much. But then after that, I was like, kind of the path for it was like, all right, now like let's become like professional salsa. And I'm like, no, like I just want to come here and have fun. Like this is not that serious. And I want to keep it that way for myself. So finding something that you just do for fun. The other thing is also having in that community aspect of finding people that are just people that you can have more than surface level relationships and conversations. The other day, I was listening to a podcast, which is Boundaries by Dr. Cloud, and he has a lot of people call in. And so he was talking, there was someone that was calling in talking about that they were feeling very lonely, that, they're trying to find kind of like their people in their stage of life. And it's very hard, but they say that they like go to church, and they are in a group, and they do this, like they have pretty much they're around people all the time. And he asked me a question, which I was like, wow, that's true. He's like, but what do those conversations look like? Like, what do you guys talk about? He's like, well, like we talk about like sports, or we talk about like, the weather, or we talk about certain things, or just like checking in like, hey, how are you doing? Oh, good. And you? But there's no like deeper going into it. And so he's like, so that's what it is. It's that you're around people, but you're not getting into those deeper conversations where you feel like, wow, like I'm actually being vulnerable. I feel like this is actually something that I can take away from this conversation, or I feel like I can go deeper with someone. And that reminded me of like sometimes finding those groups that are a little bit more personal, if that's small groups or if that's a group of people that you just get together once a month and you follow up, or even someone that you call to kind of like let them know what's really going on versus just like surface level conversation. And so sometimes it's that you don't have those people, or you haven't found that place where you can go a little bit deeper, to build that connection and intimacy in relationships. And I have talked about this a lot on here, that you do not have to have multiple people to do that with, but we all need at least one person for that. And so he even said, he's like, even if that means like going to like if you feel like you can't find those people within maybe your therapist or your community within, they have groups that go deeper, that are about other topics that maybe interest you or that can challenge you in a different way. And so that's just a reminder for someone that if maybe you haven't found that group, it's like looking for those groups that you can be more vulnerable or more and that have the capacity to do that. And some people desire that, other people don't. But I have found that for me, having those kind of relationships makes me feel very connected. Another thing is finding purpose in what you do. I know that finding purpose is a broad thing. And like when people are like, what are you made for? Like, what is your purpose in this world? It's like, that's a really big question. But I think it's like when you find meaning in the things that you do, it makes you feel connected to others. Makes you feel connected to have like something to look forward to. And I feel like when it comes to like loneliness or feeling not only connected to people, but it's like, you feel like you're like, what am I doing things for? Like, it's kind of like you have that feeling of like, does what I'm doing matter? Like all of that. Like once you start getting into that rabbit hole, it's like what can ground you is thinking like, okay, what I'm doing, the people, if it's volunteering or the people that or what I'm doing in my work or in my hobby, like has meaning, then I feel like that helps you feel encouraged in what you're doing. And another thing, which I know is kind of like self-explanatory, I guess, but that has helped me a lot is the inner work of feeling comfortable being alone. A lot of us struggle with that feeling of loneliness, and that's what makes us spiral. But I feel like feeling comfortable with that feeling and knowing that, like, okay, I can create hobbies, I can have things to do, I have people that I can be in community with. But sometimes, what if none of that is available at that moment? Like, you still need to be grounded and be okay with that feeling of being alone. And being alone does not mean that you are lonely. Sometimes you're alone and you're like, I'm chilling, like I'm good. Maybe that means that when you go to a restaurant, right? Like I used to cringe at watching people by themselves or like, oh my God, I would never. And to be able to say like years later that I'm like, I've been to concerts alone. I've gone to trips alone. I've ate by myself. And this is not to like pride myself like, oh, you have to do this. But no, it gives you that empowerment to be like, I'm capable of doing that. And I had those moments that I was like, wow, it doesn't feel like I'm lonely. I'm just physically alone, right? Like by myself doing these things, but I feel content and I feel joy in them. So I feel like that feeling of feeling like you're okay by yourself and you're not going to spiral, that is something that all of us, no matter our relationship status, I feel like should feel. And I know that sometimes that means that, again, this is not to say that everybody has to go on an international trip by themselves or none of that. Because even for myself, I'm like, I don't know if I would do that. But it's something that just feeling okay with yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are alone with you. At the end of the night, you are alone with you, your thoughts, and everything. So you being okay navigating that is very important. And you knowing how to like ground yourself and you knowing how to like catch your thoughts when they come and be like, wait, no, that's not true. Or like, because I remember I have felt those thoughts of like, oh my God, you're going to be forever alone, or, you don't fit into certain groups. It's like this negative spiral that you go in with yourself. And so trying to combat those thoughts to be like, that's not true. Or like, okay, I feel lonely right now, or like what I'm longing right now is to be connected to someone. Who can I call? Or like, what can I do to do, to get out of this? Sometimes it's literally boosting your serotonin in your body, like the good feelings hormone in your body. Um, Sometimes it's boosting the good feeling chemicals in your body. Because I feel like sometimes we're like, okay, I feel this, but am I gonna sit here? And I know like the first year of even like my breakup, I mean, I went down like a depression. Like I was in high functioning depression, like the first year when I went through my breakup. And a lot of the time, I would just like want to be in my room, like by myself, and I did feel lonely. Like literally, I would like kind of, like pull myself back away. Like I wouldn't reach out to people. I was going through my own thing. And, I had people that were checking in on me. But at the same time, it was hard. It was not really hard to do those extra things of like, all right, I should go into to walk, or I should go do this. And I feel like through my own personal work, I started being like, okay, I don't want to feel this way. Like I don't want to sit here and continue feeling this way. So what can I do? And so that's where it's like I started adding other components in my life where it's like I made plans, and like I would make plans in my calendar, things to look forward to, people that I wanted to be around. And so all of those things are intentional things that you can do that help you feel like whole and feel good and feel like you're not alone, And so I know that during this time, it can feel like it when you see it on social media, that you're like, ugh, like I hate this time of the year. And so I just want to let you know that if you need to take a break that day, definitely do so. But I also want to remind you that even people that are in a relationship can feel lonely. And so that also means that sometimes it's just the desire for intimacy or connection. And there are many, many ways that you can do that don't require being in a romantic relationship, that can be found through friendships, that can be found through doing things that you enjoy. And so that's where I challenge you for this month, is to find those things for yourself. I know last month I talked about kind of like the challenge of trying something new every month. I do that for myself. Just I feel like to add that kind of like things to look forward to. As I have a lot of friends that are in the stage of like getting married and having a baby. Like my best friend just announced that she's having a baby, which I'm so, so happy for. And I have friends that have just moved into their new house and doing all those things. But being single, right? Those feelings of like comparison or that stuff, like to not allow myself to go down that spiral. I can feel it for the moment, and I have, but not letting myself steal from like the good things in my life, and the good things that I'm doing and the good things that are happening in my life. I think it's important to have those conscious things that you're doing in your life that are like, this is amazing too. And those friends also that celebrate you as a single. That's also very important, because I know that even when I've talked to my friend that she's at a different stage of life than I am, we were kind of like, okay, if I don't get to that stage, right, that like people praise, like, when you get engaged or you get married or you buy your house, like, am I going to be celebrated the same? And I can honestly tell you that all my friends celebrate me when I do things for my podcast, celebrated. Like when I have my birthday, they show up. Like when I have something, they're celebrating me as much as I do for them, And so those kind of relationships are fulfilling, to make you feel like you have those people, in your corner. And if anything that you take from today is that feeling of feeling lonely is normal, be kind to yourself and know that it might just be a moment. If you feel like you're sitting in it for some time, I definitely recommend seeking a professional help for that. But a lot of the time is just knowing how to navigate those emotions, letting them come. Maybe if it's journaling out how you feel, speaking out, talking to someone and being like, hey, I honestly feel this way, and I just need to let someone know. Like, so that can be really helpful, and boosting those happier hormones during that time and those happier chemicals during that time that can help you feel better. and knowing how to process them when they're not. So I just want to encourage someone this week to definitely, I know it's the time for relationships, but even if it's just some self-love, do something that you enjoy on this day. Treat yourself to something. If you want to sign up for, maybe there's like a flower arrangement class, or there's a cooking class happening, or there's a cake baking class. Like there's so many things that happen around this time of the month, or a Galentine's event. Just go, treat yourself, and do something for you during this time. And also remember of the great friendships and relationships that you do have that you can celebrate. So reach out to that friend, or let someone know that you appreciate them and that you are thankful for their friendship and relationship. So make sure to subscribe to this podcast and leave a review, and I will see you guys next week.